We are back. We are in that liminal space between Christmas and New Year's. Just like Kyland is in the liminal space between getting eliminated and being in a relationship with Melissa. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And I am Sheldon Alexander.
And this is You Killed It, the podcast talking about the challenge, Battle of the Losers.
I mean, yeah, we're here. It's episode 10 recap of season 39, episode 270 of the You Killed It podcast. 270. Whenever we get to like the round numbers like that, I'm always like, whoa, okay, it's pretty cool. This Kyland, Melissa's gone. I know we talked about this obviously at the end of last episode, but I want to give a shout out to Melissa. Melissa provided a lot of entertainment this season, through 9 episodes. One could say Melissa was one of the MVPs of this season.
Yeah, in terms of entertainment value.
Entertainment value. Yeah, definitely. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about performance, because obviously she kept getting thrown into the eliminations, but just in terms of content. She's a content MVP for her run on the challenge so far this season. Kyland without Melissa, I'm kind of interested to see how this plays out.
I just have one more thought on Melissa, because I had a realization watching this episode. I don't really like anyone that's left on the show. There's no one who there's people who I think are good people.
Mm-hmm.
I like Horacio. He's not great TV.
Yeah.
I've got no issues with Kyland. He's not great TV.
That's a really good call. Like, who is the best TV?
There's no one who's like good TV. There's either people who are like, I'm sure, lovely people in real life. And then there's like annoying people who are trying to be good TV. But like, I need Michelle and Jay off my screen.
See, I go the other way. I feel like the content MVP dub might be shifting towards Michelle. And I'm saying this like we're on episode 10 right now, right? And as we go along, there's more going down. But like Michelle, she's doing a lot, right? She's doing a lot. She's trying to wear a lot of different hats. But I feel like there's a lot going down. And no matter what it is that's going down, it goes through Michelle. The reality of what's happening, like a lot of decisions that are being made, people are like, oh, I got to go talk to Michelle about this. I feel like I need to have a sit down with Michelle.
I don't understand. This is such a weird perception is reality thing,
mm-hmm.
where people are like, oh, we got to run it past Michelle, got to run it past Jay. I'm like, you really don't. You can just do whatever you want. You can just you don't have to live within the matrix. You can just talk to whoever you want. You can vote whichever way you want. You can do whatever you want. You really can just change people's minds on your own.
Yeah. And I mean, cool. Melissa's gone. She left a note for Kyland, all that. But as we're talking about Michelle, she goes to, do you want to talk about the note? Do you care about the note?
I thought
I saw the look on your face. You love, so you want to talk about the note.
Here's that look on my face though. It was so obviously left by production or forwarded through production, because obviously the eliminations happen at night.
Mm-hmm.
We see Kyland go into his room. All the beds are made. He's coming out of the shower, and we can see outside it's daylight.
Mm-hmm.
So the note to Melissa's favorite robot didn't arrive for 12 hours. Slow mail in the challenge house. That's all I'm rolling my eyes at. I'm just saying, I feel like someone in production is like, hey, Melissa, here's a scrap of paper.
You know what it made me think of too? It was like, oh, wait, was there a Kyland and Melissa? Was there a world in which Kyland and Melissa continue this outside of the house? Because I never thought that was even on the table, because my assumption was obviously I don't know where she lives, but I know it's not in the US, right? So I never thought there would be something beyond that. So I was thinking, isn't this a bit of a extension here? Or we're going past the best before date, let's say,
Yeah. But I like this note of, oh, she spelled my name right. Sheldon, have you ever dated someone who didn't know how to spell your name?
No, I can't say that was a thing. And like anyone that I've dated, like even if their name wasn't spelt in quote unquote the traditional way, my assumption is you would learn that very early on in said relationship.
Yeah.
And also,
And
wait, how else would you spell Kyland? I guess you'd spell it Ki.
I guess I also have to point out he wears his name. Like all their uniforms have their names on it. It's like here, I have a. Oh no, I just kicked over a glass. I have a real life story as I destroy my home. I have a real life story for you.
Don't destroy your home, John.
For people who know what we do in real life, I am a reporter and I'm an editor. And for the company I work for, we had a freelance reporter in Vancouver, and he was reporting on a BC Lions game. That's the CFL. And he sent in a story. I edited it and I moved it. And then he called me 15 minutes later and he's like, I misspelled the quarterback's name on the BC Lions
Okay.
throughout the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how did you misspell his name? Like, what are you thinking? And it turns out the last name of the quarterback was Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
He spelled it UART instead of EWART.
Okay.
And it's like, hold up. It's on the scoreboard. It's on the back of his jersey. And then I took a pause and I realized the reporter's last name was also Stewart.
Yeah.
Like, how are you getting this wrong? Of any name.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty funny.
I shared it at him and I hung up the phone. All I'm saying is pretty hard to misspell Kyland's name when you're seeing it every day.
It's fair. It's fair. From one relationship to another. And Michelle, my girl, talking to Mariah, and she's asking Mariah essentially, she's trying to figure out if having James in the game is good for Mariah. Is it affecting her game? Then it shifts into more talk about Johnny Bananas. And here's the thing, right? Like as they do the replay of Tori being like, Johnny's heartbroken. Like we know by now, right? Like this is all fake, right? And probably executed by Johnny Bananas himself. But is Michelle here more worried about Mariah's personal life? Like as a friend? Or do you think she's more worried about Mariah's gameplay here?
So my impression was that what Michelle's worried about is getting James out of the house.
Okay. No, but why is the question? Don't dodge the question. The question is James out of the house. Why? Because it'll be better for Mariah personally because she's struggling with how much she's hurt Johnny Bananas, someone who she cares about, or getting James out of the house because it's a distraction to Mariah's game. Thus, her alliance.
She wants James out of the house to protect Jay.
Oh,
I think this is what that entire conversation is about. And I also think that Michelle plays a very paranoid game. She's a naturally anxious person. So she's just looking for targets because she's always just looking for targets. And James is someone she hasn't been able to get out yet. And so that's where her eyes are resting right now. Because like I think the important thing is she's saying like, oh, is this a distraction for you, Mariah? An emotional distraction, and it probably is. But like realistically, in this, I mean, Mariah got into this on Twitter, on X, but like this is who like every man in the house has a pairing with a female ally.
Okay.
Right? Jay and Michelle, Horacio and Nerys.
Yeah.
Right? To a lesser extent, Olivia and Horacio, right? Forget the romance. He's her closest male ally. Like they're in it now. Like whatever the shifting alliances. And also, Mariah is the second least important woman in that alliance, the third least important behind, like, just ahead of Colleen and Berna.
Yeah, but
Like,
I was just gonna say, like, how far are we saying this alliance extends for real? It's the weirdest alliance possible because I
well,
can't keep track.
I like later in this episode, James is talking about like the American alliance, buddy. It's everybody but you. There are
Yeah,
people from all around the world in this quote unquote alliance that like includes three-quarters of the house.
yeah. Because I mean, as emphasized as Colleen, Jay, Berna, and Asaf, they're talking about who they should focus in on, but we get confessionals where we're hearing talk of, is it time to look at Jay and Michelle and start to turn on them? It's like, what is happening right now? Everything just seems to be going too far. And the Berna Michelle relationship is even more interesting to me because we knew that they knew each other outside the house, like they're cool, but we didn't know the extent of it. And as we find out the extent of it, it turns out they FaceTime each other quite a bit. They're emotional support for each other. There might be some tears being shed on said FaceTimes. Like they are close. They have a bond. But it's weird because you come into the challenge house now, and Michelle's here with a lot of her other friends. And you know, you know how you have different groups of friends, you have your
Yeah.
party friends, you have your school friends, your work friends,
Your
you have
podcast friends.
right. Yes, exactly. I feel like that's at the crux of this Berna Michelle thing here, where Berna's like, wait, we're friends, but like in the house, you don't even really talk to me. And Michelle's kind of rattled by this, but what do you make of this whole, Berna coming at Michelle, not once, but like multiple times?
I was so confused by it. Like half the time I didn't know what she was talking about. And this is not a language barrier thing. I just like her way of expressing herself is so scattered.
Mhm.
And like, why now? Like, why is this an issue now? And like, there's one point when they're in the club where Bernard's like, yeah, everyone's like looking out for Michelle, but like, I love her the most. Well, if you love her the most, shouldn't you be happy that everyone's looking out for her? Like, where is this anxiety coming from?
Mhm.
Like what's the trigger? What's the focus? Like I honestly, I was so confused by this whole Berna Michelle dynamic. I was interested that at least one, I think it was Olivia, described it as codependent.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, because like them talking about them both acknowledging how serious some of the things are that they talk about. What I really think happened here, and I'll just say it. I feel like what really happened here is Berna. It's almost like she thought she was the main chick, but realizes she was a side chick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that, her and Michelle aren't close. They are, but like, you know, quote unquote, the side chick provides certain things at certain times.
Hmm.
And in this scenario where you're in the house and there's a lot of other stuff going on, or maybe it's the other way around where Berna is the main chick, but now she's finding out about the other side chicks that she didn't realize existed. She didn't realize how strong the relationships were with the side chicks, much less knowing that they existed anyways.
I
Right?
actually, I feel like we'd never really seen these two interact before. Like I didn't realize they're this tight.
Exactly. Hmm. Yeah.
But once I saw it, I was like, oh, I get it. They're actually very similar people.
Yes. Yes.
They're both very insecure, always having to be like, hey, do you like me? Do you like me? Do you like me? I haven't asked in a while. Do you like me?
Well, that's
They're
what they're
that's
saying.
their energy.
Yeah, they provide emotional support for each other. And so when you're seeing that outlet go towards someone else and it's not being directed at you, that's where you get rattled as Berna.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get to the daily challenge because this skyball thing, at first I was like, what's going on here? But it did actually seem pretty cool. Essentially, you got two teams. You have two giant spears, and they're each filled with balls. You have your team split into 2 teams of 8. 4 of the people are in the sphere while it's spinning around, and the other 4 at the bottom. They have to solve a huge puzzle, and when they do, it unlocks the sphere. The people in the sphere can release all the balls onto the ground, and then the people on the ground who just solved the puzzle have to collect all those balls and get them into the pyramid. First team to do that with all of their balls wins.
Mhm.
Now, my question to you, as we're split into 2 teams, you have the orange team of Colleen, Raven, Mariah, Zara, Jay, Horacio, Asaf, and Emmanuel versus the blue team, Berna, James, Michelle, Olivia, Ed, Nerese, Corey, and Kyland. Are these teams actually randomly selected?
I don't think so.
Well, the couples are split up, right? Like Mariah and James are on opposite teams, Nerese and Horacio are on opposite teams.
It didn't. I don't know. I'm just a cynic at this point about
Okay.
random selection. I'm
Mhm.
doing
Yeah.
air quotes for those just listening.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm highly suspicious. The other thing was, I like the games that have strategy, and aside from being good at catching balls, like I
Mhm.
don't know what the strategy is. I'll tell you what can't possibly be the strategy.
Okay.
Doing too much, Michelle is shouting she's one of the people in the sphere. She's shouting to her teammates on the ground what the answer is to the
Mhm.
puzzle.
See, I think you're looking at this wrong. I think she's just taking charge and being a leader and trying to help out her squad. That's what good leaders do. They
What
take
is this?
charge.
What is this bit that you've been trying to do the past 2 seasons of being Michelle's number one fan?
It's no bit. I'm being serious. She's a leader. She's taking
No,
charge of her
Sheldon,
team.
I know you well
She's
enough.
able to have a great view. Being up in the sky, she's able to have a great view of the entire puzzle and the puzzle pieces. And so if she was able to see it first, she's helping the team out.
Folks, Sheldon has clearly accepted sponsorship money on this podcast without running it past me. He's clearly getting money from Michelle to speak like this.
Listen, Michelle helped her team, right?
You can't even say it.
No. The blue team, I mean, I'm just saying, she helped her team get off to a good start, and it's not her fault that, her team was slower in terms of getting all the balls in place, and Nerese couldn't even catch the balls as they were just hitting her in the face,
So
which is
hold
pretty
on.
funny.
You might be the Michelle number one defender now
Mhm.
because you've been body snatched. But the thing that Michelle should have done is they had to like do a lock and undo it.
Mhm.
Once she realized that the word was chaos, she should have just undone the lock.
I don't know if you were allowed to do that. I think that would be cheating, and
What
cheating is
would
not allowed, John.
Johnny Bananas have done?
He would have put the code in, waited for it to be done, and then just unlocked it
Yeah,
after.
that's what I'm saying. That's the move.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down basically to how well you were able to coordinate with your team. So you had Ed, who was sitting on top of one of the pyramids for the blue team, and you had Jay sitting on top of the orange pyramid for the orange team, and how quickly you were able to basically catch alley-oop passes and dunk the basketball into the pyramid is basically what this came down to, right? Because the blue team was ahead, and it's tough to really tell throughout like who was ahead and how long the lead was or when like things changed, but they showed a pretty good montage of both of them working quickly. Was there anything strategy wise that you thought the teams could have done differently?
The only thing I could think of is if there's some sort of way to get a second person up there also dunking. So there's like a ladder up the side. If you had a second person standing on the ladder, catching and then like reaching around from the side to dunk them in, so you're getting like
Okay, interesting.
that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah,
Did
I
you
thought
have
they
any
needed to be
ideas?
more organized at the bottom. Like you have one person throwing the passes up to the person. And then the
Yeah.
other, you have one person who's like gathering the ball, and you make sort of like an assembly line. So that's just
Mhm.
constant movement. Cause I think at certain points it was not that the person was waiting, but like you have to make sure you're timing it out perfectly for the two people at the bottom. That was my
Mhm.
thought. But
I gotta say, I was impressed with both Jay and Ed. I didn't see them miss any.
mhm. Yeah, it looked like Jay's orange team won by about 10 to 15 balls, and I'm doing an estimation by one of the shots that looked like it was at the end after they won. But
I
who knows how close it really was?
I will say it seemed like they kept showing us the same clips.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was edited weirdly. Like I felt like there are certain points where you felt like they were further along, and then they'd cut to another shot where there were just more balls all of a sudden. It's
Yeah,
like, wait a
I felt
second.
that too.
Yeah. Um, So yeah, I thought it was super strange, but it ends up being a men's elimination, which the women are very happy about, openly very happy about it. But so it comes down to pretty much Ed picking between Ed, James, Corey, and Kyland for who's going to go in. Horacio is super rattled because, as they have the deliberation now to pick, because you got to do it right after, which I still like that this twist,
Yeah.
right on the spot, you got to pick. And the names are being talked about here, right? And remember, this is between the squad of Berna, James. Oh, no, sorry, that's the wrong team. This is a team of Colleen, Raven, Mariah, Zara, Jay, Horacio, Asaf, and Emmanuel. They have to pick between the dudes on the other team. Now, you would think if we just go for who's on whose side, what is the alliance numbers, and you're picking between James, Ed, Corey, and Kyland, you would think that if you're Kyland, you're boys with Horacio, you're supposed to be boys with Jay, which also means you're supposed to be boys with Asaf. You should be safe. Should be. But that's not really how this went down. How would you describe the tensions in said deliberation?
I mean, it was Horacio versus the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, and Jay said nothing, like not a word.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I felt like Kyland was a little naive.
Yeah.
Like he was already the odd man out in the quote unquote American alliance.
Well, also they just you watched the person that you were hooking up with be thrown in every single week.
Yeah.
Clearly nobody cares about you, or else they wouldn't have been trying to throw in your significant other every week. Like, look at the difference between how Melissa was treated versus how James is treated. James was thrown in like once. And after
Yeah.
that, Mariah kind of like did her thing to get him off the radar. That didn't happen for Kylan. So I think you're right. I agree with you there.
I also thought Horacio was a little naive.
Mhm.
Like he was like, "Oh, I can't believe Jay is doing this." Like, have you never watched this show? Specifically seasons with Jay in them? Like, this is who he is.
It's also just funny because like Jay has never done anything on this show to command this level of power.
No. I truly don't understand how Jay and Michelle have such a grip on this house.
No, but
Like
I'm saying like
it's
at least
baffling.
Michelle won Survivor. Like there's at least
Yeah.
she's been on more seasons than Jay, right? Like there's some, and again, no, I'm not doing bit here, but I'm just saying in terms of the two of them between Jay and Michelle, like Jay is living off of like, oh, he beat CT in an elimination. Like that's what he's done,
Yeah.
you know? I don't know. Yeah, so basically, as you mentioned, Kylan's name gets brought up. Jay doesn't really say anything. Horacio is the only one to sort of counter it. And they end up saying Kylan's name. Kylan goes to Zara. And I think this was a super smart move, especially how he broke it down. He's like, me and Zara, we talk about stuff. We have a good relationship, but we don't really talk game. So she has no reason to like lie to me. I
Hmm.
thought that was a really interesting take. And he was right because she tells them exactly what happened in their deliberation, which was the fact that, Horacio was the only person that had your back.
Mhm.
And with this information, Kylan now knows, oh, maybe I can't trust Jay.
I don't understand why he has to do like a forensic investigation about why he's going in, right? Because he like then they're in the club and he's like, yeah, I'm trying to piece this together. Like, why? You've been told by multiple people, including Horacio, who's your closest ally. Everyone voted against you in that group except for me.
Yeah.
And it's backed up by Zara, right? Like all you at that point, all you need is Zara and Horacio being like, "Yep, everyone threw you in except Horacio, who fought for you. Jay said nothing." That's that's all you need to know. That's the information. But like he was like, "What order did people vote? Why? Like it doesn't matter. What matters is you're going in.
Yeah.
That is the key information."
Yeah. He's going in and basically, now starts a campaigning. You got Corey trying to campaign against James. Mariah's campaigning to keep James safe. Ed is trying to campaign against Corey. Like it's a weird dynamic of what's going on, but like Ed and James are pretty much boys. Corey somehow like the amount that we get told about a Corey rebrand in this episode is very much like, really? Like what's happened here? He basically just hasn't been a part of the episodes. I don't really think that he's got out of his way to like do anything different
It
other
was
than
like
just shut up.
it was like 2 episodes ago that he threw or sort of tried to throw Melissa and Big T under the bus. Maybe 3 episodes ago. Like
Not even. No, it was the last. Wasn't it last episode where he said he remember he tried to have this whole. Oh no, maybe it was 2 episodes ago where
Big
he's
T
like,
was
I
still in
was
the house.
lying to Big T. Yeah,
Yeah.
I lied to Big T and Melissa and told them that I had their back, but really I was working as a double agent.
I
So
don't understand why
ridiculous.
that qualifies him as being trustworthy again. I also don't understand why he's working so hard for Michelle, who clearly prefers Jay over him.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, I don't know. I find it super strange. There's maybe they've just been in the house for too long, and so everyone's kind of unraveling, except for Ed. I feel like Ed's remained solid and remained himself the whole way throughout. So it was even kind of weird to see him playing the game where he was trying to like talk to people to get, to sway votes away from himself. But yeah, no, that whole
Well,
scene in the club was super weird, man.
and at one point, Michelle's like, "Yeah, Ed hasn't had the conversations he needs to have yet." Like, what? He's
All
always
that
talking
means is
game.
all that means is he hasn't talked to me about game. And
He hasn't
everyone has to
talked
talk
to
to me.
Michelle enough about game because they've
No,
definitely
that's what I
talked.
mean. Yeah. Like she's like, everybody has to talk to her about game.
It's insane. It's an insane house. It's an insane dynamic.
The
The whole Berna confrontation in the club, like I don't understand what's going on. Like I said earlier, Berna is mad that people are protecting Michelle when she loves her the most.
yeah,
She literally said that.
she's mad that Michelle is spending more time with other people than she's spending with her. It's like, how old are you? 12? Like,
Yeah.
what are we talking about right now? Right. But I also think at a certain point, I realized very early on that the Remy's in the system in
Oh
this
yeah.
moment. And so, that's like probably adding into a lot of things. And it just turned into like a Mean Girls type situation, right? Like, whose crew are you hanging out with now? Like, you were hanging out with us, but now you're hanging out with all the cool kids. And like, why are you always with Olivia and Nerese? They don't care about you. I care about you. You're one of me. It's very strange. But I also the weirdest part about it to me is the fact of this is a dude's week for the elimination.
Yeah.
Just relax, chill out, enjoy the week of safety. There's no reason for you to cause drama. So strange.
The whole
Michelle's
scene's
rattled by
super
this, but
weird.
does Michelle create this problem on her own?
Yeah. 100%. This is one of the central issues with Michelle's game is that she, first of all, tries to be in an alliance with everyone,
Mhm.
and she sells it as, "Oh, we're friends," right? Like it's never a marriage of convenience. Oh no, you're my friend. Like that's why we have to do this.
Mhm.
And then people expect her to be their friend.
Yeah.
And for someone like Berna, who we've seen is probably not built for this game,
Yeah.
right? Like I want to be clear. I think Berna's a good person in real life.
Yeah.
Problem is she's applying real life logic and rules and expectations to a situation that's not real.
Exactly. The reality of what the challenge is and what your relationships are in the challenge house are completely different than what happens in real life. And we've seen this as we've watched the show for decades now, right? We've seen the fact that you can have a completely different relationship outside the house, but once you get in the house, the relationship dynamics have to change because you're playing a game, right?
Well, I also think that this is why Johnny Bananas has historically been so successful,
Mhm.
is that he allies with the people he is friends with,
Mhm.
and that's it. He never
Mm.
allies with people he dislikes.
Yeah.
He never like no one can really accuse him of backstabbing because like when Johnny Bananas is in the house, you know who his is on his side.
Yeah.
Right? Like if Leroy's in the house, if Nani's in the house,
Yeah.
I mean, a long time ago, but if Kenny or Evan in the house, you know who he's rocking with. That's
Mhm.
it.
Yep. For sure. Totally agree. You know whose side Mariah's on? She's trying to get James to speak up for himself, but he doesn't want to beg, which like there's part of me that's like, no, I understand that. Right? You don't need to like go out and campaign for yourself. At this point in the house, everybody knows what the deal is. There's not really a need to do all that, you know? And I'm saying that while also saying how weird I thought the Ed thing was, right? Trying to campaign to keep James, but not Corey is kind of like, this doesn't seem, this is the first time I'm looking at Ed kind of sideways because it doesn't seem, on brand, if that makes sense,
Mhm. I think we are at the point of the season though, where and you already said this, but where they're all going a little stir crazy.
Mhm,
They've all lost perspective.
mhm.
They've been there for like a month,
Yeah.
right? People have coupled up. So like, yeah, Horacio and Nerys are in the house, but like you're not talking to them most of the day.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
All right.
You have Kyland, you have Horacio, you have Jay. They're having a conversation finally that Kyland's been waiting for, where he's gonna confront Jay and be like, yo, man, what happened? Like, how come, you didn't stick up for me? My question to you is, have you ever seen a worse response to being called out for basically, your true colors being shown? Have you ever seen a worse response by someone than Jay, who in this moment where Kyland is asking, how come you didn't have my back? I thought we were in an alliance. Jay's response is, well, when Melissa was in the house, you isolated yourself from the rest of us. And so we didn't really know what was going on. First off, whether that's true or not, we don't really know, but that's not helping your case. But then you double down and you say, it's kind of like just like Nerys, who
Yeah.
is the quote unquote significant other of the other person in this conversation. And you're like, yeah, Nerys used to be talking game all the time. She used to be talking to everyone. And then now she's just laying up with Horacio for like 3 hours a day while Horacio's standing right there. And I'm thinking, Jay, what are you doing? Like, how do you use an example of the dude whose girlfriend you're trying to convince you're still cool with? You're like, it's almost like he did the complete opposite, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like, he's supposed to be saying why we're still cool. And instead he's saying, well, actually, Kylan, me and you haven't been cool since you started hooking up with what's her name?
Melissa.
With Melissa. And also, while I'm here, Horacio, you're doing the exact same thing. And it's
Yeah.
like, that was not the plan. What are we doing here? What's the strategy here, Jay? Like, I really don't get it.
It's such a weird moment. And I also was sort of surprised that both Horacio and Kylan were like, all right. Like they didn't really push back.
I think it was one of those, we're gonna back pocket this.
Yeah.
We don't want to cause waves right now, but we this is essentially Jay letting us know we're not on the same team.
Hmm.
And maybe that was Jay's goal, but I don't think that was Jay's goal, right?
If it is, it's a dumb goal. I think it's such a weird expectation to be like that both Jay and Michelle seem to have, where like, oh, if you're not checking in and talking game with us every day, you're out. Like that's a weird expectation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, super weird. Super strange. But it's also just like for you to say we didn't know where you stood because you were just isolating yourself with your significant other in the house. As if he didn't have the opportunity to do the same, he wouldn't be doing the same thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna say something that's maybe a little mean. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. It is mean. I think it's time for Jay to give up on his current hairstyle.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking the same thing.
And I say this as someone with thinning hair.
Mm-hmm.
There comes a point where you got to be like, all right, this is the hand I've been dealt.
Yeah, I think
And you
what
just have to
he
embrace your new look, whatever it might be.
so you know, if you are watching this pod on YouTube, first off, thank you. If you're not, hey, come on, just click on, give us a like, maybe send us a comment, all that fun stuff. We appreciate that. But you'll notice that, sometimes I'll have a fresh cut, but most of the time I'm wearing a hat, right? And I feel like Jay finds himself wearing a hat most of the time. And so
Hmm.
when he's wearing the hat and getting his like sort of surfer dude look going, and the hair still flowing, it looks a lot different than when he's not wearing the hat
Hmm.
and the hair is just kind of again flowing. And he hasn't really mastered that.
No.
This is where I'm going to call out Michelle here.
Oh.
Because I feel
Oh.
like as a friend, if you're Michelle and your man's is going on TV, you got to talk to your boy and help him out a little here.
Hmm.
Make sure he has his hat with him, or even talk to him about, hey, we need to start looking at some different kind of cuts here. Who's
Yeah.
the challenge barber in the house? I agree with you. It is a tough one. And listen, I deal with the same issues. You got to just figure it out. You got to be on top of things. But it's a difficult time. It's a difficult time.
You gotta find what works for you. I'm just saying it's not working for Jane.
You might get caught once or twice, but you can't get caught for a whole season. That's what I'm
No,
saying.
I'm with you. So deliberations, I didn't find really that remarkable, aside from Kyland being actually quite charismatic, wearing an all black outfit, saying this is a funeral because it's the end of my like association with Melissa.
Mhm.
I mean, great idea. Probably should have done it before the daily challenge.
Yep.
But like this was the most charismatic he's ever been, I thought.
Mhm.
And I also was impressed that he seemed to win some people over. It doesn't matter because he's already going in, but like it was
Yeah.
better than what James, Corey, or Ed had to say.
Yeah, it was one of the better performances for sure that we've seen during the deliberation. I was most surprised in this deliberation because it seemed like Olivia and company were not going to, like, before this happens, there's a conversation where um Mariah comes in and she's pretty forcefully telling the girls,
Oh
hey,
yeah.
like, don't vote for James. And she's pretty forceful about it. And to me, I almost thought that she overplayed her hand. If she came on a little softer with this, there might have been a world in which the rest of the women were like, okay, we'll let James slide one more week, or we'll let him
Mhm.
slide here. There's no need to put him in here. We can put in someone else. But I feel like she was just so forceful about it. And then I was stunned when the deliberation actually happened. The votes were in, and you had Olivia saying James's name. You had Nerys, who told Mariah that she would not say James's name, right? Like, we
Yeah.
saw that. It's on camera. And then she went back on her word. I thought that was super interesting there. So James, yeah, he ends up being the vote. Were you surprised that James ended up being the vote?
No, the Ed and Corey stuff had the feel of just being outside noise.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, like, why wouldn't it be James? There's no reason for it to not be James.
Yeah, I mean, Corey remains as a number, but there is a world in which if you are those women, you would trust in James's number over Corey's number because at least you know, hey, if I do this solid for Mariah, Mariah has James under quote unquote control. Whereas Corey's proven to be a wild card. We don't know what Corey's going to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? We literally have no idea what Corey's going to do. So yeah, there was a world in which I almost thought that might happen. I didn't think Ed was ever in trouble, but yeah, it ends up being James going down. And who do we get as the champ coming back to town?
Darrell. I gotta say, hearing like I started watching the challenge after Darrell was off, largely off. I remember watching his season of Road Rules, but like I didn't see him in his challenge prime. The fact that he won 4 challenges in a row is wild.
Yeah. It's funny because this is a week after the discussion about Tori being one of the GOATs, right? And it's like, okay, so 14-time challenger, 6 finals, and the only person in history to win 4 titles in a row. That's before you get to the dominating performances, right? Because I forgot, like Laurel only won once, right?
Yeah.
But Laurel's dominance in those seasons, and I feel like a lot of the seasons, I feel like she's only been on 7 seasons, first off, or 6 or something like that. So it's not like she's been on a high number, but she's put in work in those scenarios, right? And there's been a lot of times where she's like going against everyone and like winning eliminations, and like the odds are just stacked against you to win. But 4 in a row is crazy. I don't even care that it was early on in the game, the game's existence. Like everybody knows you're that good and you're still coming through and doing it. And also, is he the one that knocked out that dude one time in the house?
Yeah, he knocked Brad out because Darrell is a Gold Gloves boxer.
Yes.
And Brad was really drunk and like throwing his weight around and like shoved it, and like Darrell just popped him, like immediately dropped him.
It's one of the best moments in challenge history.
And like they were both kicked off the show for that. Mm-hmm. But like Brad was removed from the show because he like couldn't compete anymore. Like he was wrecked.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing about Darrell that I think people forget is he won 4 times, but like remained a person with integrity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is very hard to do on this show.
Yeah, he's a good, solid dude, right? The whole time. Like he was an OG to the Young Bucks. He never really played a dirty game. You always kind of knew where he stood, which was more so on his own because he just trusted in his ability to win challenges or win eliminations. But Darrell is just like he's like on the all character team. You know what I mean? Like a good dude on the challenge. And he also gave me my line of the episode. Because when he decided, when he's in his confessionals, which he is a confessionals GOAT as well, and he's improved over the years a lot in his confessional work. Yeah. But he says, James and Kyland don't look like no challenge champions to me. James looks like he's about to go ice skating. He's got his tights on. He needs to go to Dancing with the Stars or something. I mean, whatever. I guess it's time to go to work. I mean, he's not wrong. It is pretty funny, too, to think of you're this challenge OG. You come on the show now, and you don't really know any of these people. There's no familiar faces for him, really.
No, he comes out. He's like, hey, Mariah. Hey, Michelle. I think there might be someone, but those are the only people he knows.
Yeah, it's so funny.
I think my line of the episode comes immediately after Darrell pulls Kyland's hammer,
Mhm.
and up on stage, Mariah immediately breaks it down like Shawn Michaels in 1998 and tells everyone to suck it, like crotch chops and all.
Very funny. Very funny.
I
I
guess
could
that's
tell
not a line, but it's a reaction. It made me laugh.
you could tell Darrell really didn't want to go against Kyland.
No.
Right? Like he really wanted to go against James. And James is such a loser too. He like points at Darrell. He's like, "Oh, you're a lucky man." Right? It's like, really, James? Like you were about to lose, bro. There's
Yeah.
no way James would have been good at this challenge. He's too
No.
like uncoordinated. It would have been horrible.
And we already know his cardio is bad.
Yeah. What did you make of this elimination?
It was, how can I explain this? I thought it was cool. It was a good visual. I think it required a lot of like physical strategy, but I feel like it's too subtle for TV.
Mm,
Like there is no obvious way in which they're building strategy or a tactic or like a way of doing this.
yeah. And because of the way that you have to edit it together, we never really get a good grasp of like how it's going head to head. You know, like they would show us, okay, this person just went, okay, that person that's just went, but they would do like these like montages of not things being lit, but just like the things moving around. And it's like literally nothing's happening right now. Right? Like you're just filling time with these montages of the things moving, but not like it's getting any closer to being lit. Just generic movement of the platform.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
It
It
looked
was
cool though.
it looked cool, but I just like in terms of like the gamesmanship, the strategy, it wasn't there.
Are you a little surprised, or maybe surprise isn't a word, but like I was felt a little bit let down. I'll say that like Darrell didn't come in and it was like the wishbone. Like I wanted to see a physical, like I'm not
Yeah.
saying it had to be, hall brawl, but something physical where he's coming in and it's the wishbone, where he has to rip it away from the competitor, like something where it's like, no, you're going against one of the challenge dogs. Like you got to go against them.
Oh, well, I'm gonna again point out that I at least am suspicious that Johnny Bananas pulled out, so they put Tori into his spot, and that would put Darrell into Tori's spot. Like, doesn't this seem like it's a
Ah,
competition designed for Tori?
interesting. Very interesting. I like that. Yeah, I like it. I like it. And it would also make sense further to your theory as well that like Johnny was there, but like didn't come on the show or whatever.
Yeah.
Because Darrell making a comment to Mariah,
Mm-hmm.
that's not something Darrell would just do.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's out of character for Darrell. But you could see a world in which Bananas was like, yo, man, it'd be really dope if you went on and he said something to her,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, because like I don't think of Johnny and Darrell as tight, but they obviously know each other. I think they get along fine.
Yeah. But that was like the funny, the, because what does he say? He's just like,
Don't
oh,
worry, I'm
don't
not gonna
worry.
tell Bananas.
Yeah. Which
Which
is
like
like,
at that point he like Bananas already knows. Like
yeah.
that's been established.
Yeah. So you're just making a little dig just cause.
Just for the
Yeah.
TV.
Doing it for TV. I hear you. Yeah. And then what happens here? So Kylan ends up winning. He stays in the house. I'm still confused at the fact that the competitors still don't really have a strategy in terms of, are we putting in good people to try to win us the money? And
And try
thus,
to
who
get
are
them
we
out of
cheering for in the elimination?
yeah. But also like they not only are they not protecting the bag, but they are putting in people who like they should be putting in the people they don't want to face
Yeah.
in the final.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yet, here we are.
Super interesting stuff. Yeah. So Darrell leaves. TJ tells them they got to go back to the house and get ready for the next daily challenge. And that's how this episode ends. We get a
I'll tell you.
trailer.
I'm gonna be honest, Shelly. When he said that, I'm like, oh my god, they're doing the final. I can't wait because I was excited for the season to end.
See, because I knew that it was only like episode 10 and this is MTV, the MTV version, not the CBS version,
Yeah,
I knew that there was a long ways to go. But
I
also when they
I had
played the
that feeling just
trailer,
for a moment.
when they played the trailer, I was like, oh yeah, there's still a long way to go in this season.
Yeah,
And I mean, really, we know that CT is going to be on. We know that Kara is going to be on. We know that Laurel's going to be on. But even still, that's not really enough. That's still, a lot of weeks ahead of us. So I will say the trailer did look okay.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, these characters, they're not in the same mold as, challenges we've had before.
No.
But, I'm still entertained. I will say I'm still entertained.
Yeah, it is entertaining, but my God, they don't know how they're playing this game at all.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. I thought I muted my mic for a second there. That's what, my awkward pause was there. My apologies.
No problem. Yeah, it was. I felt this is one of the weaker episodes, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree. But I am looking forward to what's coming up because I know there's some headbangers coming up. Not headbangers in terms of like competitions, but just good episodes because there's like drama coming up. I think that's pretty cool. And I know when Laurel comes on, it's going to be amazing because obviously Michelle shook. So that's going to be funny. And the Michelle Laurel dynamic is something I'm looking forward to a lot just because I find it hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want Jay and Michelle to get their comeuppance.
Okay.
It's a tough question, Shelly, but who killed it for you this week?
I'm going to give it to Kyland. And the reason I'm going to give it to Kyland is because, he loses his boo. He's in a tough spot. He loses his alliance officially because he realizes that Jay isn't really on his side. And the people he thought were in his alliance let him go into elimination. And then he goes in against Darrell and pulls out a victory. I think, things were set up for Kyland to follow Melissa out the door. Instead, he said, no, not today. Put his foot down. He won a difficult challenge. He did a really good job. And yeah, that and the fact that I have no idea who else it could possibly be.
It's sort of by default that I'm picking Kyland. The one thing I'll add on to everything you just said is that he gets to be in the house for like at least another round because presumably next week will be a women's elimination.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he'll continue to get appearance fees. But like, again, the gameplay on this season is so hilariously bad. And like, Kyland's our MVP, but like, I can't say that we killed it. Like, this guy is still trying to figure out why he got nominated. Like, it's pretty tough. Pretty tough out there.
Yeah, nobody knows or understands the game. It's so funny to watch him figure it out week in, week out.
Where can the good people find you on social media?
You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. Also, huge shouts to the people liking and subscribing to the pod wherever you listen to the You Killed It podcast. Remember to rate us, review us, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. That's how you support the movement that is the You Killed It podcast, especially the YouTube videos. Thanks for the people commenting there. See the comments. Appreciate that. Appreciate your insights. People that respond to us on Twitter. Huge. Appreciate that. Love y'all.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Threads at J Chidley Hill.
When was the last time you went on Threads?
This morning.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I like Threads.
Okay.
They gotta work out some kinks, but it's a better vibe than Twitter for sure.
Okay.
Until next week, this was You Killed It.
You Killed killed it.